All right, let's dive into something that's really changing the game in AI. We're talking about taking those incredibly powerful language models out of the cloud and putting them right on your own computer. And this is going to be fun. I mean, just think about it for a second. What if you could have all the power of something like ChatGPT, but with zero reliance on outside APIs? No sending your private data to a third party. Just you, your machine, and some seriously powerful AI. Sound good? Well, it's a lot closer to reality than you might think.
It really boils down to 3 huge wins. First, you get total privacy. This is absolutely critical if you're working with sensitive information. Second, you can say goodbye to those never-ending API fees. Yeah, there's an upfront hardware cost, but after that, it's yours. And finally, you get full control over everything. The models, the environment, all of it. No more being locked into one company's ecosystem. So here's our roadmap for this explainer. We'll kick things off with why you'd even want to do this. Then we'll get our hands dirty with an amazing tool called Llama. After that, we'll talk hardware, then show you how to build actual applications with LangChain, touch on some super important advanced topics, and finally, we'll look at what's next.
Okay, so why is this whole on-premise AI thing becoming such a big deal? For the longest time, the best AI models were locked away behind commercial APIs. You had to use their service. But you know, that's all changing, and fast.
Let's just quickly look at the trade-offs here. On one hand, cloud APIs are super easy to get started with, but they come with some pretty big question marks around data privacy and costs that can really add up. On the other hand, with local LLMs, you are the king of your castle. Your data stays with you, which is a massive deal for compliance with rules like GDPR. Sure, you have to buy the hardware, but you're not paying every time you ask a question.
Now for the fun part. Let's make this happen with Llama. Honestly, this tool is a bit of a miracle. It takes all the complicated, messy parts of running these huge models and just handles them. It makes local AI accessible to pretty much everyone.
And when I say it's simple, I mean it. You download the installer, you run it, and you pop open your terminal. That's it. From there, it's literally 2 commands. Ollama pull Llama 3 grabs the model from the internet, and Ollama run Llama 3, well, that lets you start talking to it. We're talking minutes, not hours or days, to get a state-of-the-art AI running on your own machine.
Okay, so you're probably wondering, what kind of beast of a machine do I actually need for this? Well, these models are definitely hungry for resources, but the key is just matching your hardware to the models you want to run. Let's break it down.
This table is a great guide. For a 7 billion parameter model, which is still incredibly powerful by the way, you can get by with 8 to 16 gigs of RAM, even just using your CPU. If you're stepping up to a 13B model, you'll want to aim for 16 to 32 gigs of RAM, and this is where having a decent GPU with at least 8 gigs of VRAM really starts to make a difference.
But here's the really cool part. You don't actually need a top-of-the-line gaming rig to do this, and that's thanks to something called quantization. The best analogy is it's like turning a giant high-quality WAV audio file into a much smaller MP3. You lose a tiny bit of quality, but honestly, it's often so small you'd never notice, and the file size is way more manageable. That Q4_KM you see there, just think of it as a setting for that compression, and it's a fantastic sweet spot. And seriously, don't forget, you don't need a GPU. A good CPU and plenty of RAM can still get the job done.
So, you've got this amazing AI model running on your laptop. Now what? I mean, a chatbot is cool, but the real power comes when you start plugging this intelligence into actual applications. And that's where a framework called LangChain comes into the picture and changes everything.
It all starts with just a few lines of Python. You're basically just importing 3 main building blocks. You've got the Llama connection itself, which is your link to the local model. Then you have a chat prompt template, which is a smart way to structure your questions so you can reuse them. And finally, an output parser to make sure the answer you get back is in a nice, clean format.
And this is where LangChain's magic really shines. See that pipe operator? It lets you chain these components together in this beautiful, logical flow. The user's input goes into the prompt goes to the model, and the model's answer gets cleaned up by the parser. It's so clean.
You're not just writing code, you're designing a reasoning process. This is the foundation for building really complex stuff, like AI agents that can use other tools or look up data. All right, let's level up. Once you start building real-world apps, you're going to run into some bigger challenges, like how does the AI remember a long conversation, and how do you keep everything secure?
So one of the first big hurdles you'll hit is memory. An LLM has something called a context window, which is basically its short-term memory. It can only remember so much at once. The simple way to handle this is conversation buffer memory. It just stuffs the entire chat history into every single prompt. Works great for short chats, but it breaks down fast. A much smarter way is conversation summary memory. This actually uses the LLM to summarize the conversation as it goes. It keeps the context small, but the trade-off is you might lose a little bit of detail from way back at the beginning of the chat.
Now, here's a crucial point. When you host your own LLM, you become the chief of security and governance. You're responsible for the entire data lifecycle, just like this diagram shows, from the moment data is created to the moment it's deleted. This isn't just a technical detail, it's a huge shift in responsibility.
You've got to treat this system like any other critical piece of your infrastructure. That means keeping solid audit logs, just like security experts at NIST would recommend. But look, if you're just starting and you're wondering where to begin, focus on one thing: access control. Knowing exactly who or what can talk to your model is the single most important security step you can take.
All right, in our final section, let's talk about squeezing every last drop of performance out of your setup. Because once you're up and building, speed is everything.
Sooner or later, you're going to ask yourself this question when your app feels a little sluggish. Is it my CPU, my hard drive? Is the model just slow? Let's figure out where the usual suspects are hiding.
So to make things faster, you first have to find the bottleneck. If you have a GPU, the biggest win is almost always offloading more of the model onto it. If your model takes forever to load in the first place, your hard drive is probably the culprit. You really want these models sitting on a fast SSD. And if you're building a service for lots of users, techniques like batching requests and caching common answers are absolutely essential.
And that really brings us full circle. As researchers at Carnegie Mellon pointed out, the fact that we can run these things on regular, consumer-grade hardware is a huge deal. It's breaking down the financial walls that used to keep this tech exclusive to giant corporations. This stuff is for everyone now.
So we end right back where we started. Running AI locally puts the power and the responsibility back in your hands. It's your data, they're your models. You make the rules. So the only real question left is, what amazing thing are you going to build first?